son's school called me in a panic over a drawing. When I saw it, I couldn't believe why. Last Tuesday, my son's school called me in a full panic. The teacher's voice sounded tense and rushed. Mrs. Malik, we need you to come to the school immediately. There's been an incident involving your son. My heart dropped instantly. When you're a parent and someone says incident, your mind goes to the worst places. I kept thinking, did he fall? Did he hurt someone? Did he get into a fight? I grabbed my keys and drove there faster than I probably should have, my mind racing the entire way. By the time I reached the school, my stomach was already in knots. The principal met me at the front office with a very serious expression, the kind that makes you feel like something truly bad happened. Thank you for coming so quickly, she said. We need to discuss your son's behavior. Behavior? That word made my anxiety spike even more. She led me into her office, and that's when I saw my 6-year-old sitting quietly in a chair, swinging his legs like nothing in the world was wrong. The moment he saw me, he looked relieved. Mom, he said quickly, I didn't do anything bad. I walked over and squeezed his shoulder before looking at the principal. What happened? I asked. She sighed, clearly disappointed. During art class, she said, your son created a drawing that we found inappropriate. I blinked. Inappropriate? I repeated. He's 6. Without saying anything else, she slid a piece of paper across the desk toward me. I picked it up and looked down. It was a bright, colorful drawing. There was a big yellow sun in the corner, flowers everywhere, and a small stick figure boy standing in the grass. And right next to him was a giant purple monster, holding his hand. I stared at the picture for a moment. Then I looked back up. I'm sorry, I said, confused. I don't understand. What's inappropriate about this? The principal adjusted her glasses and pointed at the monster. That figure, she explained, is holding hands with a child. That could represent danger, or possibly a threat to other students. For a second, I thought she might be joking. You called me here, I said slowly, because my son drew a monster holding hands with himself. She nodded very seriously. We encourage creativity, she said, but we must also maintain appropriate boundaries. Before I could even respond, my son leaned forward in his chair. But Mom, he said, pointing at the paper, that's Mr. Wiggly. I looked down at the drawing again. Mr. Wiggly? I asked. My imaginary friend, he said proudly. He helps me feel brave when I'm scared. I felt something soften in my chest when he said that. Kids have their own little ways of dealing with the world. Their imagination becomes a shield when things feel big or confusing. The principal still looked concerned. Imaginary friends can sometimes indicate emotional distress, she said carefully. But my son shook his head. He's not scary, he said. He's nice. He just makes sure nothing bad happens. I couldn't help it. I laughed a little. Then I looked at the principal and said gently, he's 6 years old. Kids imagine things. That's how they learn to deal with fear. For a moment, she didn't know what to say. Then my son looked directly at her and said very seriously, maybe you need a Mr. Wiggly too. He's really nice. The room went completely silent. I had to press my lips together to keep from laughing again. Finally, I thanked the principal for letting me know and stood up. I took my son's hand and we walked out of the office together. As we walked down the hallway, he looked up at me. Mom, he asked quietly, do you think Mr. Wiggly is silly? I smiled down at him. No, I said, I think Mr. Wiggly is pretty great. Because sometimes what adults see as a problem is really just a child finding a way to be brave. And honestly, as we left the school that day, I couldn't stop thinking about something. Maybe the world wouldn't feel so serious all the time if a few more people had their own Mr. Wiggly.